Hello, listeners. Coming at you with a special episode from the team over at Microsoft. Microsoft provides opportunities for new and career employees to contribute to important and impactful projects. The company also provides the ability for employees to work in a wide variety of domains, essentially 20 companies in one. This enables their team members to find an area that is right for them and their passions. Well, today I have a special couple of guests on the show on the Code Story podcast. I have Girish and Junior, two employees at Microsoft, two different phases in their careers, great experiences for both, and really excited to dive into their opportunities that they've been provided at Microsoft. So Junior, Girish, thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we get too far, what I'd really like to do is for you both to tell me a little bit more about you individually. So tell me a little bit more about you.
So I'm Junior. I come from Côte d'Ivoire, which is Ivory Coast in English, and it's in West Africa. So I came to the US for college. I actually tried computer programming my very first semester as I was, taking English as a second language. Yeah, fast forward, 4 years later, I graduated and I joined Microsoft. It was pretty exciting. So when I joined, in my idea, I really wanted to be in research. I wanted to go into a academic career. So end up maybe as a professor, and I'll keep doing research, maybe with some time in the industry. So far, it's been really interesting how things have changed, how the opportunities came, and Microsoft has been great so far.
So you were learning English while you were learning programming. Tell me about that. How was that for you?
Yeah, that was very interesting. I mean, I had learned some English before, but you only really learn the language when you are in a setting where you have to speak it every day. The good thing is programming is mostly English based, so you don't really have like other programming languages, even other spoken languages. So it was easier in some sense, because it was some kind of practice at the same time, even though it's a little different.
Yeah, that's a good call out. It is primarily English based. I don't speak in camel case on a regular basis, but sometimes that inflection happens. Girish, how about you?
I'm from India originally, and I moved to the US for my master's about 30 years ago. So finished my master's and did an internship at Microsoft, and pretty much have spent my career at Microsoft. I'm passionate about a few other things other than programming, in particular kind of fitness. I'm kind of obsessed about my Apple rings, Apple Watch, and closing the rings and making sure I get enough exercise, etc. And one of the things that I was super thrilled about is that last year I was able to, do like 4 or 5 sets of pull-ups for the first time in my life. So that was like a very cool achievement for me. I do quite a bit of reading around kind of business books, whatnot. I'm an amateur investor, if you would, and I take a lot of interest in business and kind of financial markets as well.
So you got your Apple Gear, right? You're measuring your health and your steps with your Apple Watch, right? Are you listening to business books on audio while you're working out, while you're doing fitness?
No, I cannot do that. I do actual physical books. I don't do the Kindle or whatnot. It just doesn't work for me. If I'm sometimes running, I'll watch Netflix shows, so I combine my entertainment and fitness.
I am also an amateur investor too. I think we all are, unless we work for.
I don't know. Last year, everyone was a great investor. This year, everyone sucks.
It's true. It's a tough year to be an investor. That's true. Junior, I want to flip back to you. Tell me, what were your expectations coming out of school regarding projects, you would work on at Microsoft? What did you think you'd do when you joined the team?
So I wasn't sure at first. I think I was definitely excited, but I had no idea that I would be working in what I'm currently working in. So currently I'm in Azure Compute. So anything related to virtual machines, virtual machine skill sets, and so on. So the interesting thing is, like, even when I joined, as projects came along, it's like even my managers were not sure that we would be working on them. And it's just to kind of show, how exciting it is. And every semester you might be working on something exciting.
You were in school, you were looking at going into research. How did you find out about the opportunity at Microsoft?
Yeah, most of my time in school, I was really focused on that goal of doing research. And the main reason why I was doing that was because I wanted to get to a point where I was an expert in the domain and use that to like not only advance the field but also, try different things. And I wasn't sure that there were other ways to fulfill that. And so yeah, so in school I was always looking out for research opportunities, talking to professors. I even got to do some research internships, at other schools and all. So it was looking great. I got some papers published. Yeah, right before the last semester, I heard that there was some conference, some job conference. So I was like, why not? Let's just go ahead and let's try. Let's see, what's out there. And that's how I ended up, speaking with some Microsoft employees, firsthand, and really got the sense of like what it could be like, working at Microsoft.
Girish, let's flip over to you. So you've been at Microsoft for quite some time. How did you get started, and how did you find out about the opportunity?
Yeah, super coincidental, if you would. So I was doing my master's. I went to UC Santa Barbara, and they had this little kind of red building, which was the career center. And, I was just curious, what is in a career center? And I just was kind of walking around, just kind of browsing around. And then it was like, oh, this company, Microsoft, is here. They were kind of interviewing. So I just put my name down on the schedule and went back for an interview. And it turned out the interview went well, and I got invited back to Microsoft for an internship. That was an internship. I did my internship for, 3 months or so. I was invited back to come do an interview for full time, which was roughly 3 months after I had finished the internship. And so got an offer and pretty much ended up joining Microsoft.
Okay, so Girish, right now you are overseeing teams in computer networking storage. Is that correct?
That's correct. We call it the Azure Core Group, which encompasses the three kind of big infrastructure businesses around virtual machines, around storage, and networking.
So when you got the call back, the 3 months after the internship, did the interview, joined Microsoft, was it in this group?
No, there was no Azure 30 years ago. So when I joined Microsoft Project. In fact, one of the things I had thought of was that I really want to work on applications. I don't want to work on systems. So it's ironical that now I'm managing a systems group, probably it is the biggest systems group at Microsoft and potentially the second or third in the world. So that's kind of funny.
How long have you been at Microsoft, Girish?
About 30 years, right out of college.
So good long tenure. So I imagine, you worked for MS Project, and now you're telling me you're leading groups in computer networking and storage. What was in between? What other groups did you work for?
So I've had about, I kind of say, 6 jobs at Microsoft. One of the cool things about Microsoft is you can get a variety of experience. It's like working for, you can work for 10 different companies, but still under the same corporate umbrella. Everything is so different. So I had about 6. I worked on Microsoft Project. I started as a development engineer, much like junior, and I grew to be what we call the dev lead, which is someone who manages a small group of people. At that time, it was 6 or 8. And I spent maybe 6 years at kind of Microsoft Project and kind of grew that set of folks that I was kind of managing. And after that, I kind of decided to just look around a little bit, put my head up. I thought I was working in the best group in the company. Turned out that, there could be more than one best group in the company. So I started on a project called Team Pages. It was an incubation project. Team Pages kind of evolved, and right now is the SharePoint business. So I kind of helped start that, and that was as a development manager. So a development manager manages not only engineers, but also manages engineering leads. So that was my kind of a little bit bigger kind of management role at that point in time, and also incubation role. That was fantastic. And that got me going into kind of trying to do a few more of those. And I started the commerce platform then. It was used to collect all the online payments. In those days, it was consumer, things like Hotmail and internet access, and built a general purpose platform for that. Again, I was the development manager, and then I became the general manager for that. I spent years there. I worked on consumer security, and then I did enterprise security. And after that, I worked in Bing for a little while. That's where I got to work for Satya directly. Satya is our CEO. And from then, I transferred kind of back into kind of enterprise and worked in Azure Active Directory, moving on to Azure Compute. That's where Junior is now. So I was managing that group, and then a couple of years ago, I took on Core, which is the current job.
You've obviously done some really cool stuff during your time at Microsoft. I want to flip back to Junior. Junior, tell me about some of the projects that you're working on now. Tell me about some of the things that you've been able to jump in and dive in and do.
Currently, I'm working on sizing recommendations. In the cloud world, we are getting, more sizes every year, like innovation and due to innovation and all. So it becomes, harder for customers to know which ones are the best, for their workload. There are many different ways that we've approached that before, and currently I'm part of a team approaching it in another way, so with new metrics and so on.
That sounds super impactful. You're not coding an internal project to send emails to other team members. You're sizing the cloud for customers. That's incredibly impactful. Is that not super exciting to you?
Oh yeah, it is definitely. So it has been rewarding to see the impact my work has for customers at a global scale so early in my career at Microsoft. So when I joined, at first I was working on our SDK. So my most direct team owns the SDK space. So like anytime you want to create a virtual machine in the cloud, you're probably going to go through one of our SDKs. Then I moved to some internal, projects, and it's so interesting how you went from like small teams, you start a project, and then you have to move to another project, and then like a few months later, you kind of see like many people join, and it grew to become something bigger and all. So right now, I'm experiencing the same thing with this project. I was assigned to it, I got it started to some point, and yeah, now we're seeing more people joining and all. So
you're obviously doing some super cool stuff in a very short time at Microsoft. I'm curious, Junior, when you look, say, at Girish, right? You see his long tenure here at Microsoft and all of the things that he's been able to do, and then kind of measure that up to you're working on amazing projects and see all the opportunities that you could do. How does that excite you about the longevity of your career at Microsoft?
by a lot, by a lot. I remember when I joined in my very first discussions with my manager, I was telling him that it was a candy shop, of engineering problems. And the interesting thing is 2 years later, I'm still in the same, mindset. I'm still, like looking at things and being like, wow, there's so much more to do. And even being here and listening, to Girish and realizing that even after 30 years, it's still the case. It makes me really happy about being here.
And Girish, I would ask you that as well. You've been for 30 years. You've worked in many, many different types of groups. Do you feel like your opportunities are over or there's still more to do?
There is always more to do. The business opportunity and the technical opportunity are huge. I think my career is done super well. I'm sure I can do even more there. But at this point, I think the thing that motivates me is kind of impact. And I really feel that as one of the cloud providers, we have an opportunity to really influence what's happening in the world in fairly dramatic ways. And I'm very passionate about kind of use of some of the technologies that connect our physical world with our kind of virtual world. So, for example, using AI to develop new medicines and cures. So you can kind of, accelerate the work done in a lab by supplementing it with AI and do drug discovery, gene treatments, etc. Similarly, you can kind of, use kind of AI and some of those things to improve, say, agricultural yields in developing countries. There was a project that was done in India that was around how to use machine learning to do the right amount of water drip on crops so that you can conserve the water, which is a very kind of scarce commodity. Then, you can feed more people. So the impact of what we work on and how we make that available to everyone is what motivates me now.
So I want to ask some questions to both of you, and I'd love for you to feed off of each other. So in your answers already, I can, extract so much around how Microsoft has opened up your career horizons, right? And provided so many opportunities. But in your own words, how has that happened for you? How has Microsoft's opportunities opened your career horizons?
You want to start, Junior?
No, you can go first.
All right. So for me, I think the big thing that Microsoft has done is provided me a set of skills that I didn't have. Junior, I don't know what your experience is, but when I kind of joined Microsoft, I found that the academic world was quite different than the corporate world. Things that seemed kind of simple in academia were kind of actually more complex. Kind of being able to work in a group was, I think, the first thing that really was a different skill set. I kind of found, well, I have to interact with other humans and build systems around that, and collaboration ended up being a new set of skills that I picked up. Similarly, as I kind of moved around the roles, picking up kind of management skills, so I've never actually been trained in management. The opportunities just afforded themselves. Talking to groups and people, not something that you do as an engineer in academia. So that's another one kind of interesting thing. And right now I kind of kid around and say that, I was trained as a computer scientist, but my job is a psychologist. What I'm doing is kind of, just making sure that people are motivated because a lot of the work gets done through motivated people. So huge set of kind of skill sets, non-technical skill sets. And of course, around the technology itself, it's super interesting. One of the biggest realizations was that all these things that we studied around analysis of algorithms, it's super relevant actually in industry, because how responsive your stuff is and how well that works is actually something that delights users, is a big differentiator. The problems are generally simple, much, much simpler than what you would see in academics, but when you apply them at scale, all the practical engineering skills was, I think, the biggest technical stuff that I picked up. Junior, do you find it's kind of similar for you, or has the world changed so much in 30 years that you have a different experience?
Yeah, like coming back to some of the things you said, in school, in academia, you get to, write papers, you get to have some theory about, different things. But in the engineering, world, in the actual industry, some of your choices translate into savings, or like Gary said, like for example, the response time might be bad, if you use one algorithm over the other. And I actually had to experience that. There's no greater joy than actually seeing the result, than, like what you would have, when you are doing this on paper, for example. Coming back to even, the idea of working in teams, one thing I've seen in academia and in the research space is that you can kind of create your close group of people you really like and you work with them, right? But at a company like Microsoft, you shouldn't do that, and you cannot really do that if you really want to have impact. So you're kind of invited to work with a lot more people on engineering problems. And then, yeah, the other thing too is that, like Gary said, it's very different. When you move from that space, like the academic space, to the actual engineering space. Coming back to your question, I remember when I joined, I was still in that mindset of research. They say go build that solution, and I'm still, there spending some cycles trying to make things perfect, optimize, And I remember my discussion with my skip, and he was like, Junior, business impact is not the code you're writing over there. It's like what it's doing to users. And that kind of changes things. And that was like something very valuable that I learned, and I really love about like in the industry and working at Microsoft. You're not really afforded that iteration, say in academia. You have your paper. Maybe when you're applying to a conference, or like you get the paper back to edit some things, and that's it. But when you're working in the industry, I realize it's kind of like taking care of a living thing. As the business grows, as like opportunities come, you have to update things, and really that process is really amazing.
You both have obviously gained a lot of, skills, opportunities to work with different types of people and to really make an impact. What is the future for you both at Microsoft? We've talked about a lot of opportunities and how you can move around, do different things. What does it look like? What is next for you both?
I'm in a really cool business. I probably have one of the best jobs in the world, and there's a lot of business growth over the next decade. Even though the cloud business is big, 80%, 70% of companies are still using on-premise. So we have a huge opportunity to move them into the cloud. With a different set of people kind of moving to the cloud, the challenges are going to change. What we think is kind of interesting today is going to change. Secondly, there's a lot of new kind of fields that are kind of moving to the cloud. Things like we acquired a company, Nuance, around healthcare, where there's a huge opportunity for us to do kind of things together. We are doing more things around DevOps and making it easy for even amateur developers to interact with the cloud, and it's just at their fingertips. So I think there's a huge opportunity, and I'm super excited about the impact that all of kind of Microsoft people working the cloud, working together, can have on the broader kind of community. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Excellent. Junior?
I really want to see how far the project I'm working on goes. So, like I said earlier, we're in the stage where new people are joining the effort. So, I really want to see, like over the next years with the added expertise and other people, like what business impact we can have. So, I think right now that's the thing I'm looking forward to seeing. So that's like maybe the 2-3 year horizon, I guess. And so now beyond that, I'm not sure, but I can see, from Girish's experience, I can see how, if I reach a stage where I want to try something else, I can find it at Microsoft. So like I'm still connecting with people, like joining the internal, conferences and all, just to try and understand different areas where people are like different areas people are working. Just keeping notes of different things. Like over the last year, I've seen some great investment in identity. Like that was something that I found really interesting. I kind of have a list, and I'm like, okay, maybe in 5 years, in 5 years, I can try and reach out to the engineering manager and be like, like I really love what you said, a few years ago, and I want to see if I can contribute there too.
How has your job kind of changed over the last couple of years, Junior? If I remember, well, I do remember when I was joining. Initially, it was like do what you're told. Then it turned into, well, I can actually propose ideas, and they get taken in whatnot. Do you find that's kind of happening, and you're becoming like a veteran?
Yeah, I still find that that's the case. And in the beginning, you're not sure about the company, you're not sure about different processes and everything. So it's actually good that you are kind of in that, at least for early in career. You join right off like out of college. You think you know, but you don't actually know much. And it's really good to kind of like be in that space where you are given those simple tasks, and kind of build experience off of those. After that, given how, I perform, I was given more opportunities, because now I have a better understanding of like what my org is trying to do, and I'm trying, and then I can use that to tune my work. I can use that to tune my ideas and be like, okay, this thing right here might actually be helpful, for our like charter, for what we want to do, and like let's try that. And for example, I really like that story where when I joined, my manager was telling me, the abstract things like, okay, here's what we were trying to achieve at a higher level. And one of the things was, for example, docs management, making it easier for developers to onboard to the cloud. As I learned more about our team, I learned more about our work. I found some opportunities to actually work on that. Even before the time we were assigned like actual teams to work on it, and so it was during hackathons, and I'm still doing that. So it's really exciting to see like that progression from being told what to work on to like actually setting some direction. And I hope that at some point I'll be able to profit into it.
Well, last question for you both. What would you say to someone considering joining the team? They may look at Microsoft and see this big company, right? And maybe not see all of the opportunities that you guys know and have experienced. What would you say to those people?
Junior, you go first this time. You go first.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, my answer would be from early in career perspective. Unless you've done an internship, you might not know what you'll be working on. So it might be scary, but at the same time, it's actually really good at Microsoft, because if you do not like what you're working on, you're going to find an opportunity for sure with a sister team, for example, that you are definitely going to like. For me, I would say be ready to learn, be ready to explore. Growth mindset is not, it's not just a word here. It's like something you really have to keep in mind, as you are exploring opportunities in the company.
That's very well said, Junior. So, just to add on to what you're saying, there's so many different areas at Microsoft giving employees, limitless opportunities to find the area that's right for them and their passions. For early in career or just starting out, Microsoft could appear intimidating, but really it's a set of tons of small companies. Every group has its own little subculture, generally people are friendly, especially if you're able to kind of come into work as opposed to remote. You can kind of do, a lunch, get together. Lots of friendships form at work. The other thing I would say is when you come in, that's when you realize that there's so much that you can kind of learn and emulate. And it's not a intimidating experience. It is something very organic. You're kind of learning, you're absorbing, and there's always people who are very, very willing to teach you. So you can kind of have a formal or informal mentor, learn from your manager, learn from your peers. And I think that makes it kind of super exciting. There is not that kind of pressure. Oh, am I getting an A or a B in terms of grades or whatnot? So it's kind of a fun environment, and the variety is tremendous. You can work on the cloud, you can work on Power Apps, kind of working on making things easy. You can work on developer experiences. You can work on gaming. Like Junior said, if you don't like what you're working on, there's something else in a sister team or a cousin team, if you would. That definitely can, kind of pique your interest. The other thing I think is the empowerment. It's very much like it was when I joined, which is you get to work on stuff that ships to customers from day one, right? You're not fetching coffee for more senior people or stuff like that. You are actually doing stuff that counts. In a couple of years after kind of joining, you end up kind of being the person that owns whatever you're working on. So it is incredible. I think it's still true. Definitely was true when I kind of joined, and I feel when I talk to Junior and other folks that it is still true at Microsoft.
Yeah, yeah. Just to add what Giri said, I imagine when you join, like I guess we're not in that like ship fast world, where you can directly have something online and all, right? Or was it the case?
No, when I joined, there was no online. It was we used to actually ship on these disks. In fact, there was a person whose job was to order the binaries such that we would use fewer disks. So if you used 3 disks instead of 4, and these disks went out in millions to, you would save a whole bunch of money. Now, we used to ship in disks, and we are notorious for slipping. I think my project was supposed to ship in 9 months, and we took like probably 2 years to kind of do it, and it was a given that you would slip. It's a lot more scientific now. We used to be a little much more kind of ad hoc when I joined.
So just to add on what you said, then it's actually better now because when I look at like, my experience, for example, right now with that recommendation, project I'm working on, we found some issues with say, for example, some of the features, and 2 weeks later, we're already seeing the result of the changes. Seeing like how customers are reacting to it, like what is the number of support cases we are getting and reviewing those. So it's even more exciting now, I would say.
It's a much different environment now. Well, Girish Jr., thank you for being on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking about all of the opportunities you've come across and been a part of at Microsoft and your careers for Junior, from you for the early stage professional, Girish, the 30-year veteran. Certainly appreciate you sharing all things on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Noah. It's really been a pleasure.
Wow, what an awesome conversation with Girish and Junior. Their stories really illustrate the opportunity that Microsoft has provided them through their time and work there. I mean, Girish has changed roles 6 times, each time to something interesting and exciting, and Junior started making an impact with his work on real-world projects at a global scale from day one. There are fantastic opportunities for growth at the company. If you would like to learn more about what opportunities might be available for you at Microsoft, head on over to their career page at careers.microsoft.com. And thanks for tuning in today for this special episode from the team at Microsoft.
Taxes was waiting around for your taxes to be done, which led to worrying about not getting any money back. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes in a day to get you up to $4,000 fast with a refund advance loan. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Expert filing only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Refund advance has $0 loan fees and 0% APR. Refund advance loans may be issued by First Century Bank, N.A. or WebBank. Terms apply. Subject to approval.